Just a short time ago, the NBA released its report on what's been going on in the Dallas Mavericks offices for the past 2 decades, and the findings are, in Commissioner Adam Silver's words, quote, disturbing and heartbreaking. The investigation, which was launched about 7 months ago after an explosive story in Sports Illustrated, was done by an outside firm that spoke to 215 current and former employees and examined more than 1.6 million documents, emails, and text messages. And here is what they discovered. A toxic workplace where women regularly went to work every day having no idea whether one of the men in the office would try to kiss them, press them for sex, threaten their jobs, play pornography in front of them, or in one man's case, take them on a tour of the arena that would include a mandatory stop at his apartment. Each time one of these incidents happened, management decided it didn't consider any of the men's behaviors fireable offenses. One woman who worked for the Mavs showed up to work with bruises and swelling on her face and chest and arms, and informed management she had been beaten by her then boyfriend, who was also a Mavericks employee. That man is named Earl Sneed, and Sneed, who had already pled guilty to charges he had beaten his previous girlfriend, was not fired. In fact, in the first incident, Mark Cuban had offered to pay his legal fees. The investigation also found that, in particular, 15 women were harassed by the man who served as the Mavericks president and CEO for nearly 20 years, including the first 15 years Cuban owned the team. That man's name is Terdema Ussery, and Cuban has maintained since this story broke he had no idea about Ussery's behavior or the culture Ussery had enabled. That investigators deemed to be true. Not one of those 215 people they interviewed said that they told Cuban about Ussery, and no emails or text reflected Cuban knowing either. But Cuban did obviously know about Sneed and a few other isolated incidents involving another employee named Chris Hyde. And regardless, the NBA is holding Cuban accountable for what was going on in his shop, as it should. The league announced today Cuban has agreed to donate $10 million to women's organizations. That's 4 times the $2.5 million maximum allowed by the NBA Constitution. Although it is also relevant to note, last year Forbes estimated Cuban's net worth at around $3 billion. There are no basketball-related penalties being assessed, and Cuban will still get to own the team. The league has mandated a top-to-bottom overhaul of the Mavericks office. That includes firing not just the perpetrators, but the men who enabled them, as well as elevating a number of women to leadership positions and instituting strict new measures to encourage the reporting of and punishment of this kind of behavior. Here's Adam Silver's complete statement, quote, "The findings of the independent investigation are disturbing and heartbreaking, and no employee in the NBA, or any workplace for that matter, should be subject to the type of working environment described in the report. We appreciate that Mark Cuban reacted swiftly, thoroughly, and transparently to set the allegations as they were first set forth in Sports Illustrated, including the immediate hiring of Cynthia Marshall as CEO to effect change. But as Mark has acknowledged, he is ultimately responsible for the culture and conduct of his employees. While nothing will undo the harm caused by a select few former employees of the Mavericks, the workplace reforms and the $10 million that Mark has agreed to contribute are important steps toward rectifying this past behavior and shining a light on a pervasive societal failing, the inability of too many organizations to provide a safe and welcoming workplace for women." To me, the fact that the league is being thorough and transparent here, that matters. I'm not sure the penalty is harsh enough. I certainly wouldn't have complained if it was more. But ultimately, more than debating just how much of a pound of flesh can be extracted here, I am personally so much more concerned with a real, honest change in the culture and the opportunities for women, not just in Dallas, but around the NBA. And I still feel Mark Cuban has some significant explaining to do. To that end, I've been asking Mark to come on The Jump for an interview for months, and he kept telling me he would do it when the report was released. And now that it has been, he's kept his word.